Welcome everybody to the launch of the new smartEn publication, the smartEn map in wholesale electricity markets. I'm Andrés Pinto-Bello. I'm the head of research and projects at smartEn, and I will be the host of today's webinar through our packed agenda. And I hope that you enjoy and you learn something from today's webinar. Just a housekeeping note. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, you can put them in a little box that you have at the bottom right where it says questions, not on the chat function. That is for you to comment with each other if you want any part of the webinar. But if you want your questions to be answered, please put them in the questions box. And with that, I would like to just a few words about smartEn in case you're not familiar with us. We are a trade association based in Brussels, and we represent over 100 companies in the flexible demand management industry throughout the whole value chain. So from technology providers, as you can see, to OEMs, to aggregators, to large energy consumers. So we do represent the whole spectrum of the demand side management industry. And our members are responsible for over 13 gigawatt of flexible demand across 15 European countries. But what brings us today to this webinar is this launch of the new of a flagship publication, of smartEn's flagship publication, which is the smartEn map. As you know, this is a publication where every year we take on a new topic, and we analyze it from the perspective of how demand-side flexibility or distributed energy resources at large interact with electricity markets, with European grids, with consumers, and so on. And this year, the topic is on wholesale electricity markets. For that, we have analyzed 22 European countries. And we have taken an approach of looking at it from two perspectives. One is where consumers can be exposed to wholesale markets explicitly, so they're directly trading in them, or they can also be exposed to these to the prices of wholesale markets through implicit participation, that is, receiving price signals or through their dynamic price contracts, for example. And adapting to that through that avenue. We've also looked at the market maturity and the outlook and upcoming changes that we will be seeing over the coming years, to try to assess also how interesting a market or what the potential is of a market in the near future. Of course, you can download the full report from our website, but I do invite you to stay on with us for this webinar. We will be having an initial part with a presentation of this new report, followed by a panel debate with three esteemed colleagues that will join us, which will answer some of the questions and give us the perspective of the industry and how they see wholesale markets, the potential, the benefits, the challenges that they're facing from the perspective of those that are actually participating in them. So I wanted to start, before we go into the actual maps of the report, is to make sure that we all understand what is the implication of why this is so important, that demand-side resources can access wholesale markets and can benefit from trading there. So, as I mentioned, demand can be exposed in two different ways, either explicitly, for example, through an aggregator sending a signal to a consumer to shut down their assets, or through a dynamic price contract where the consumer can adapt based on the different prices throughout the day. What this does is that at times where we have high electricity prices, and the demand can adapt, and it can expel from the merit order that you can see here on the graphic. So moving from the orange dot, by adapting to these signals, it can expel these more expensive resources. So, for example, gas, oil, or some sorts of coal production can be expelled from the merit order to a new equilibrium where the demand is lower or is adapted, and the prices will also be lower. So this also goes the other way around. At moments where renewable production is very abundant and there's excess production, demand can adapt and absorb this generation and avoid having to curtail these renewable energy sources, and avoiding also costs that are linked with this curtailment. So with this overall, with this active participation, we get that overall the wholesale electricity prices will be lower for all consumers, whether they're active or not. But especially those that are active will benefit more. So just as a slight tangent, smartEn and together with DNV calculated.
Hey, trying to figure out how I can shut this one off.
Sorry, Jacob, if you can mute. Yeah.
Apologies.
So if, sorry, as I was saying, smartEn and DNV calculated that by 2030, full participation of demand response or demand-side resources in all markets could bring over 300 billion euros in benefits to all society, to consumers at large. This comes from reduced need of risk curtailment. It comes also from lower wholesale energy prices. It comes from lower grid management costs. So it is a holistic number, taking the whole electricity markets at large. But this is a goal that we can strive to, this number. But for that, wholesale markets are a key and integral part for consumers to participate. And this is why we thought that we would look into the current situation across Europe and see what countries are performing best in allowing access to wholesale markets. And this is what we're going to see now. We have here this overview map where you can see not a lot of green. This map represents the summary of our report, where we do merge both the explicit participation and implicit participation. And you will see that this is important to mention because of the subsequent maps will look a bit different. And but in general, what we can see or what we found out is that countries that have stood out have implemented into these two different directions of explicit and implicit. For explicit participation, they stand out because they have implemented an independent aggregator framework that allows access to these actors to wholesale markets. And on the other hand, the countries that have performed better through implicit participation are those that or where smart meters are made or are readily available for consumers, and where they have where they have access to different dynamic price contracts. And then, of course, they have also facilitated the adoption of these contracts. So I just want to remind everybody that access to wholesale markets is actually it's actually mandatory already. It is in European law. It is enshrined in European law and the European directive that was implemented or that came into force in 2019. But this has not been implemented all across Europe. And this is maybe one of the main takeaways, is that we only see this happening in a few wholesale markets, in a few European countries, and that inertia is not enough to enact change. We do need concrete actions by governments, by national regulators, to implement the legislation that the European Commission prepared in 2019. And the other main takeaway is that the adoption of dynamic contracts, while they're becoming more and more available, it is still quite low. There are different reasons depending on the country. Some countries just don't have a rollout of smart meters that are large enough for it to be significant. Other countries, there are cultural reasons behind why consumers do not reach out to these kinds of contracts. There's also reasons linked to the recent energy crisis, where there's this general fear of price spikes. So there's a whole host of reasons why these contracts have not been fully expanded, but we will see later what the benefits are from adopting them. Now, I will hand over to my colleague Kantan, who will analyze a bit the further maps a bit more in detail, and tell us also who has performed best in this new edition.
Thank you, Andrés. Good morning, everyone. So now I will guide through the different maps that are reflecting the different chapters of the smartEn map 2024. So first, we'll go through the explicit participation to wholesale markets. So here there is actually two aspects that we looked upon. First metrics is related to the participation of independent aggregators using an incremental approach. Do independent aggregators have a legal right to access wholesale markets? Does an existing framework for independent aggregators cover wholesale market operations? And finally, do the country implement the necessary reform to enable their participation? A second element that we took into consideration is related to the gate closure time of the continuous intraday market. To give you an idea, this gate closure time should be as close as possible to delivery to allow distributed energy resources to participate more effectively. For example, flexibility service provider have more visibility on the availability of their assets when it's closer to the delivery point. In terms of findings, there is only a handful of countries that include France, Great Britain, Greece, and Belgium that actually implemented reform in a meaningful way to enable the participation of independent aggregators in wholesale markets. Regarding the gate closure time, here it's more on a regional perspective. All the Central Western Europe have a delivery time, a lead time of 5 minutes, and the country with the shortest lead time is Finland, where traded can occur just at the moment of delivery. And then we will go to our second map. This one is related to the implicit participation through dynamic tariff, where we had a focus more on the residential sectors. So here there is several factors that we looked upon. First, how advanced is the rollout of smart meters? Are dynamic tariff recognized in the countries, but also is there some commercial offers available on the market? And the last component that we took is the share of energy component within the electricity bill, as it will affect the attractiveness of this contract. As a threshold, we determined that at least 50% of the electricity bill should be composed of the energy component to make dynamic pricing financially appealing for customers. Here we put as best performing countries Norway and Spain, but more than Norway, it's the all Nordic and Baltic countries that have a really high rollout of smart meters and a lot of offers available. We also took into consideration Spain that have a special regulated tariff called the PVPC that is targeting a small energy user and that enables to reflect the dynamic of wholesale prices to them. Then I will go upon our third map. So here it's related to the market maturity. There is also different metrics that we took upon. So related to dynamic tariff, what is the level of subscription? And then it's more related to the explicit participation. So does the participation in the wholesale markets are translated into actual activations? So in terms of findings, you can see that, the map is overall red. For the explicit participation, we took France as a best example, but really had difficulty in accessing the data needed for the assessment of these first metrics. We consider that there is currently a lack of transparency on the volume of electricity that are traded and on the asset that provided them. Here, France stands out with this framework called NEBEF, which provide a clear record on the activation volume by demand-side flexibility. For the other country that implemented reforms, for Great Britain, in Greece, it was just implemented a couple of months ago, so we don't have a lot of insight through this mechanism. And for other, for example, Belgium, there are some current design flows, such as limiting access to customer and a compensation mechanism that hinder their effective participation. The best example that we have related to implicit access is Norway, which have the highest subscription to dynamic contracts. It's 93% of Norwegian households that subscribe to this meter. But this also goes in hand with the large percentage of the population that, for example, has a heat pump or already have an electric vehicle, which make, of course, this type of contrast not effective. I will go then to our last part, which is the market outlook. So here there is also different metrics that we look upon. Is there an upcoming review of the independent aggregator framework that could enhance wholesale markets participation upcoming? If for the countries that already have a mechanism, do they foresee an improvement in the coming years? For the country that are still lagging behind for the deployment of smart meters, is there a clear timeline that have been given? And finally, is there some reform plan to expand access to dynamic tariff? Here, there is two countries that we wanted to highlight as best performing. We have Greece. So Greece in the past years implemented a lot of reform to open its market to independent aggregators in terms of balancing, but also wholesale markets. It is quite recent, but it entails a lot of good prospect. And also by the end of this month, Greek customer would be able to subscribe to dynamic contracts. However, there is still a major problem, which is the rollout of smart meters, which is just at an early stage, and that will hamper the possibility for residential customer to engage in wholesale markets through an independent aggregators, but also to subscribe to dynamic contracts. A second country that we wanted to highlight is Spain. Spain is currently undergoing a review of its independent aggregator framework that will clarify the relationship between the aggregator and the different stakeholders of the energy system, and which will, depending on its final version that we do not have yet, may allow an access of independent aggregators to wholesale markets. Thank you for your attention. And now I will give back the floor to Andrés that will guide you through the main recommendation of our publication.
Thank you, Kantan, for this overview. As you could have seen, there's a significant difference between the slides that, or the coloring in the slides of that Kantan mentioned or showed, and the one that I showed on the overview of the maps. This is, of course, linked to the difficulty of bringing or assessing wholesale market access at large or having a general overview, because there are two very different avenues, the explicit and the implicit. So the overview map will, of course, have evened out a bit the differences. However, this is why we encourage you to read the individual country analysis, because they give a lot of nuance into why market performs in our interpretation in a certain way. Now, as recommendations, I mean, you probably have guessed, based on the presentation of Kantan, is that I have only highlighted here two recommendations. We have 10 in total in the report, but maybe these are the the most pressing ones that we see now is, first and foremost, is the independent aggregator framework. This, of course, is an integral part to facilitate demand response or demand-side resources to access wholesale markets at large. Of course, this can also be done or through suppliers that aggregate their own loads. But what we want to encourage is that this can happen also across different suppliers. So a consumer can have different types of assets managed by one company, like an independent aggregator. This is, of course, not the case or not allowed in most European countries, even though this is required by European law, as I mentioned, Article 17. In some cases, we have aggregator frameworks that have been introduced, but they're only valid or only used for balancing products, and not for wholesale. And in any case, we do need a mechanism or that allows these actors to recognize volumes of demand reduction as an action that can be traded in wholesale markets. So this is the key part, because in most cases it is possible to aggregate generation and trade it. But what we need is the recognition of the possibility for demand reduction to be traded as well. And on the second aspect is advancing the rollout of smart meters, and also importantly allow the use of smart sub-meters. So some sort of measuring device, smart measuring device, is a requirement for dynamic price contracts. Consumers both need the possibility to receive these price signals, and the supplier or needs the possibility to know at which concrete times consumers have used or electricity, to be able to bill them more accurately. This can be done by the smart meters issued by the boundary meters, the traditional ones issued by the DSO, but it can also be done through sub-meters that can be issued by service providers like aggregators, and that can be linked to specific assets or can be used for managing behind the meter assets. And this is really important because we see in countries where the smart meter rollout is very slow, like Germany, that paradoxically has one of the highest amounts or highest presence of different types of dynamic price contracts available for consumers. And this happens with thanks to the technologies, the abundance of technologies that are present in Germany, like electric vehicles, solar PV, storage, and so on, that can be conducive to providing services or trading in or receiving signals from wholesale markets. But they have no smart meters, so it is the service provider, the aggregators, and so on that actually provide these contracts through their own sub-meters or management or measuring devices. So I think this are the two main takeaways or main recommendations that we would highlight. Of course, there's a few more. And not necessarily less important. So I invite you all to have a look, if you can, at our report with further recommendations. Now, I will leave the room now for a few questions from the audience. We might not be able to answer all the very detailed questions, but if you have any, please send them in, and I will try to answer what I can. And if not, we will then jump into our panel discussion. I remind you, if you have any questions, please put them in the question box, not on the chat box, where I will be able to see them. I see one question on the spread necessary for for flexibility to be interesting for industrial consumers, with a figure of 150 euros per megawatt hour. I'm afraid we do not have this information. We did not go into what makes it profitable for industry to be active or not. So this was not part of the report. And then we have a question on what our thoughts are on the connection between implicit and explicit flexibility. They're separate but might be synergistic in providing collective incentive for the consumer to activate his/her flexibility. Yes, absolutely. I mean, we analyze this from these two perspectives. But of course, ideally, both would be available for consumers, because not all consumers will have the same demands from their consumption. They will not have their same the same requirements. They will also not have the same technologies, and there will be consumers with higher risk aversion to others. So we cannot just say that all consumers should be served through explicit flexibility, or all consumers should be served through implicit. So the sweet spot lies in a combination, and then consumers can choose whichever type of setting or contract serves them best. The thing with explicit flexibility is that it is a commitment, or there's a commitment implicit in the contract, well, explicit in the contract, and not all consumers might be able to get to that level where they can assure that they will be activated. So yeah, it is about a combination of both. I see the question from John on recommendation of demand reduction. The aggregator framework, yes, absolutely. The aggregator framework should recognize not just demand reduction, but also increases in demand. Yeah, this in the report we clarify that. Maybe it was not very clear here. On the trading platforms, we will see a bit more now with our panel discussion. And I see the question on Dimitris on whether we can elaborate why a consumer would choose to go for wholesale bidding instead of balancing market bidding. I'm afraid that this is a question of that is best asked to industrial consumers. Maybe some of our speakers later can illuminate us a bit on what their consumers actually think behind. But this is probably linked to what their strategy is and the profitability on the two different markets. We do see it in some of the countries where it is actually both are possible, where consumers have moved more towards balancing market because the prices are higher. This depends on the prices at the end of the day. I see that there are other questions that I cannot answer myself now. Kantan, if you have any question that you would like to answer, please do so. But if not, I will reach out to every one of you with your questions and try to answer them. I see one question that I would like to answer that is related to grid fees and grid access and about congestion. This is a very good point because one of the other aspects that we have not mentioned here, why dynamic tariffs might not provide the only signal necessary for consumers, or where the signal is not sufficiently strong enough for consumers, is because of the aspect of grid fees. In many countries, the energy component of the electricity bill is quite small compared to the component of tariffs, or so grid fees, and taxes and levies. So as Gerard says, tariffs, grid fees, and the energy price have to both be dynamic to accurately, or for consumers to have all the information and be able to react in the most efficient way. It is important also to mention that grid fees and wholesale prices, they are two signals that can work together, but that do represent two different physical realities. Wholesale prices reflect what is the generation available, the generation mix available, while grid fees represent or showcase more the physical congestions that we are seeing in the grid. So there's two different physical realities. They both can work together. In some cases, they will be contradictory, but the issue relies on the price. So whichever price is more important or more or has a stronger signal is the one that will be, let's say, taken into consideration by the consumer. So this is, I think, the most important message, that that consumers must be able to be exposed to these price signals, and then it is up to them to make these choices. And that can be either through explicit trading or implicit through dynamic price contracts. So I don't want to hold us up much longer with these questions. As I said, I will take note of them and reach out to everybody and try to answer as many as you can. If you have further questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and you can also find the full report that obviously provides more nuance to this to these slides. But now I will want to introduce or ask the panelists to join the stage. We have prepared a panel discussion to get a bit of a better sense of what actually is the experience of market parties in wholesale markets. Because of course, from our side, from the, let's say, more research side, we look into the more theoretical cases, we look into more the aggregated situations, but we want to hear from actual market parties and see what their experience is. And for this, we have this panel where we have three speakers. They all bring a different perspective, and we'll introduce them, and then we will have some questions. Of course, again, if you have questions to the speakers, please put them in the question box, and we will try to answer them. But first, we have Kora Töpfer. She is the head of German Public and Regulatory Affairs at EPEX. We have also Pierre Bivas. He's the founder of Voltalis. And we have Jacob Dalton from Tibber. He's the head of trading. Please join me all on the stage. Turn on your cameras and microphones. Welcome and thank you for being available for this discussion. I would like to start it off with a more general question, and to reflect from your perspective on what is your experience with wholesale markets, and what is it that your company does in them, or how can you benefit? And I will start with Kora.
Yes, good morning. I'm Kora Töpfer from the European Power Exchange EpexSpot. So our experiences with wholesale markets are quite straightforward. We operate them. So we all know that electricity markets are highly complex. This is linked to massive increase of renewables. This is also linked to grid congestions that are likely to increase tremendously everywhere over the next years. Also, the demand needs to become more flexible. So and also the electricity markets, they are no islands, but they are European-wide coupled. So all this adds additional complexity. So the markets need a safe and transparent organization, and this is what we do at EpexSpot. So we operate the Day-Ahead and the Intraday markets for the largest trading community in Europe. Day-ahead means where you can trade the 24 hours of the next day, and soon also the 96 quarter hours of the next day. And the intraday market, where you can trade on a continuous basis until very close to delivery. So what we do then in our robust and fast trading systems is to match electricity demand and supply. And then we calculate a transparent price signal. And this neutral and transparent price signal is then the basis for a large number of important decisions in the electricity or in general in the energy sector. So in the short term, it's the basis for decisions on consumption and production. In the long term, it's the basis, this market price signal, it's the basis for investment decisions in new power plants, for example. So we've seen over the last year a booming liquidity on the European day-ahead and intraday markets that we operate. We have had our 430 trading member traded last year 886 terawatt hours. So last year, this corresponds to 1/3 of the European electricity consumption, and it corresponds to approximately 21% of volume growth compared to the previous year. So we welcome a lot the smartEn wholesale market map. It's an important basis for any political decision maker to take informed decisions. And I would like to highlight a few additional solutions that from EpexSpot side we developed to improve or to further integrate flexibilities into these wholesale markets, day-ahead and intraday. So first of all, 50-minute products. That's something that is not so new anymore, but very successful. We started introducing it in 2011 on the German continuous intraday market and Austrian and Swiss intraday market, and then further expanded it to other countries. And until it now is a European regulatory requirement. Also, what is also mentioned in the smartEn report, the minimum bid size, so 0.1 megawatt, that's a reality on the markets we operate. We also introduced the local intraday auctions already in 2014. So 10 years before it became a European wide reality. Now with last year, the introduction of the pan-European cross-border intraday auctions. We also, Quentin mentioned the importance of short lead times. So the time until the actual delivery between the trade or the closure of the order books and the actual delivery, physical delivery of the electricity. This is important for renewables and also for demand response. And we started therefore shortening the lead time already in 2017 with Germany to 5 minutes, then France to 5 minutes a year later, and further expanded it to other countries. And in addition to that, because the energy transition, it's decentral, and we see in particular in demand response or flexibility area, more and more decentral and small market participants. So this is why we worked a lot on developing solutions to lower the barrier, the entry barrier to access the wholesale market for small market participants. So, for example, we developed a new membership types, like, for example, the passport membership or the group membership, where as a market participant, you do not need to have your own BRP set up or your own clearing set up, but you can use the BRP or the clearing of an existing trading member or of your mother company. And so in general, we see that all these efforts, we see these also in terms of membership in our trading community. So we have a lot of market participants that commercialize their flexibility already today on the day-ahead and intraday markets we operate. Industrials, or to name a few, industrials consumers like Trimet, ThyssenKrupp, Deutsche Bahn, for example. Also electricity suppliers offering dynamic tariffs like Octopus, or also an increased number of companies that are commercializing the flexibility of electric vehicle batteries, like the Mobility House, for example, or Elli, a brand of Volkswagen.
Thank you, Kora, for this detailed introduction. We move on to Pierre from Voltalis. What is your experience with wholesale markets?
Yes, good morning, everyone. My company, Voltalis, is an 18-year-old startup. We began in France with residential consumers to operate in the balancing market, but that was the history. Now we participate in all kinds of markets at wholesale level, with most of the volumes delivered in the wholesale market on a daily basis for more than a decade, coming from hundreds of thousands of homes, as well as other kinds of buildings, be they public buildings or commercial. We operate as independent aggregators, or we partner, including with suppliers who want to engage their consumers in such field. We're also involved in several other countries in Europe, from Finland to Spain, not to mention Hungary soon, or the UK, where we will announce next week a major investment program to roll out at scale. And I should mention this is a direct consequence of the British decision, known as P415, to fully open the wholesale market to DSR, as we are discussing today. A major takeaway from our experience is that consumers are very happy to participate and willing to do so as soon as they are aware they can adopt our solution. 3 out of 4 consumers we talk to actually volunteer and are equipped within a couple of weeks. So this is how we are heading to involve millions of consumers free of charge for them, in order to build gigawatts and, more importantly, to deliver tens of terawatt hours per year in wholesale electricity markets across Europe as they open to meet national flexibility needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre. And now, Jakob, you bring a slightly different perspective, but also very interesting with consumers.
Hi, morning, everyone. I have a croaky throat, so I hope my voice is okay. But yes, Tibber, we're an energy supplier with an hourly pass-through tariff. So implicit participation, as smartEn has defined it here. We've been active in the wholesale markets with demand flex for over 8 years. So 2016, Tibber was founded. We're now active in Germany, Netherlands, Norway, and Sweden, so 4 countries, and have over 600,000 homes under supply. And on top of that, 600,000 homes, we have over 200,000 electric vehicles connected to the platform. So electric vehicles or chargers, also heating devices, batteries coming, and solar inverters. And the value prop to users is no profit margin. So users get the wholesale price with a markup, but it's not a profit markup. So Tibber does not make any money from retailing, unlike normal retailers or other energy retailers. And therefore, we have incentive to help our users reduce their energy consumption, because we don't profit by selling kilowatt hours. And then finally, we can utilize that flexibility and shift the consumption to lower price for them. Hourly tariffs or dynamic tariffs are very commonplace in the Nordics, as you've seen in this map. Norway above 90%, whereas Netherlands and Germany, we'll get on the barriers, but there it's much more risk-averse population, so it's not as a popular choice in terms of electricity tariffs in the continent.
Thank you, Jakob. We talked a lot about benefits, and sometimes they can be a bit abstract, or we talk about them in aggregated terms. I was curious, from your experience, the 3 of you, the consumers that you engage with, which are the concrete benefits that you see from them? Let's start with Pierre. You say that your consumers, they're very eager to join. What are the actual benefits for them?
Well, there are 2 kinds of benefits, indeed, for those consumers who participate, and also for all the others. So for participating consumers, well, we provide them smart thermostats and energy management devices and services. So this is totally free of charge, because as a reward for sharing their flexibility, we provide them the service and automation. And with this, experience shows they save energy up to 15%, thus reducing their bill, whatever their supply and price scheme is, just saving energy. and they're very happy to do so. Of course, they can participate even if they have a flat price, so it's really independent from their supply contract, or it should be at least as per Article 13 of the European Directive. And there's no need for any smart meter as soon as DMDs, so dedicated measurement devices, are allowed as per the recent market reform at the European level. So this means that measurement data is provided by our devices. They don't need to pay anything. They don't need to wait for a smart meter if there isn't. And we provide this data. And of course, this is subject to quality requirements that can be verified as per a well-known quality approach. So this is for consumers who want to participate. The direct benefit they have is saving on their bills. And the indirect benefit they have is they provide huge benefits to all consumers and to the planet and climate, of course. And you mentioned it because in your presentation, you recall that by reducing demand when energy is scarce and pricey, we help reducing market price peaks and volatility. And this reduces sorting costs for all suppliers, hence for all consumers. And I should highlight that, for instance, for industrial consumers, this is how DSR from buildings, from residential or commercial building, contributes to benefiting industry and making European industry competitive by reducing energy prices and volatility. And as you recall, the numbers are huge because it's not a minor idea to reduce costs by 300 billion euros each year, as you recall from a study published by smartEn last year on the quantification of the benefits. So these are the two kinds of benefit. All consumers benefit of having some participate and reduce their energy consumption when relevant for the system. And that's free of charge for them.
Thank you, Pierre. Very important addition at the end. Kora, your consumers or the companies that you interact with are a bit different than with Jacob and Pierre. What are their benefits from trading on your platforms?
Yes, thanks for the question. It's an important one. So one of the main benefits for the whole market and the end consumers has already been mentioned by Pierre. So it's to soften price peaks, to soften price peaks on both high prices or very low prices. That's the one of the major benefits that increased participation of demand response or flexibility in general on the wholesale market brings. And in the end, this will also reduce the costs in the end for the end consumers in Europe. I would like to add a few additional benefits with regard to what the benefits are for market participants to trade these flexibilities on the wholesale market compared to bilateral trading, for example, what we call OTC. So when you trade on the wholesale market, it comes with all the benefits that an organized exchange-based trading brings. So meaning you have anonymous trading. It's non-discriminatory. So you do not know to whom you are selling or from whom you are buying. That's one basic principle of electricity wholesale trading. And this ensures non-discrimination, no matter if you are a large or a very small company. In addition, it also has the advantage when you access the wholesale market that you have standardized products. So you do not need to negotiate every contract, which can take a lot of time and also money, but you have access to standardized products. And this is also why previously I mentioned that we innovated regarding the products to make it also fit for all these new flexibilities that enter the market and that needs to be integrated for the success of the energy transition. And also another important advantage is the counterparty risk, so the default risk. This is taken over by the power exchange or the clearing house. So you have the guarantee that for the electricity or for the flexibility you deliver, you are actually also paid. And so the beauty of the electricity market, I would say, it's that the more and more volatile prices that we see on the day-ahead and intraday markets, they set exactly these incentives already today. So to invest in demand response in flexibilities.
Thank you, Kora. Very important message that the incentives are there, the signals are there. We have heard about incentives, about benefits. This seems like a no-brainer. But as we saw from the map, this is not happening everywhere. And my next question would be for the three of you, because you have the on-hand experience with these markets. What is currently not working for you, for the companies, the Voltalises, the Tibbers, or even for platforms like Epex? What is not working for in wholesale market or to facilitate wholesale market access? And I would like to link it with a question that there was in the chat box that talks about assessing the business case for the next 10 years, or where do you see these markets going in the next 10 years, or where do you see big opportunities developing? Can be country-wise or consumer sector-wise, or whatever you can think of. Jakob, you want to start?
Sure, I'll keep it quick. The obvious one from Tibber's perspective is the smart meter rollout in Germany. We don't need to go into details there, but it's slow. It's happening, supposedly this year it's starting, and we're looking forward to that. Another big one, especially in the Nordics, is outdated or legacy tariff types. So, for example, monthly tariffs, monthly dynamic tariffs, where they still use a standard load profile essentially and distribute the price. So there's zero incentive for flexibility in such tariff types, and they also don't ensure price stability for users. You've touched on DSO grid tariffs, and we're a bit concerned, especially again in the Nordics, where time of use tariffs and also peak tariffs on the grid company side are being implemented. That it's adding an extreme amount of complexity for end users, but also will essentially block flexibility in wholesale in many cases because we need to consider other signals. And then one maybe to Kora, it's a bit more technical, but so a lot of the flexibility on the residential side is steered to spot prices, but often the assets don't actually directly participate in the auctions. For example, if we think smart charging, we would love a product that says, I want to buy 5 megawatts for the cheapest 5 hours of the day. That doesn't exist at the moment. So it's very difficult in many cases to take assets to the markets directly. So they're not actually participating in the auctions and helping to set the optimum price. I think, there's a few smaller points, but we can leave them for later.
Thank you, Jakob. Pierre, you're up next. What is missing for you, and where do you see this developing in 10 years?
Well, indeed, some things are not working. Let's start seen from consumers. As I said, French and British households can get smart thermostats free of charge, but that's not the case for most of the consumers in many other countries because the electricity wholesale market is not open to explicit demand response yet. So this is really not fair seen from consumers. And seen from the country, most countries have growing needs for flexibility as they rely more and more on renewables. So why not move forward? As you mentioned, Andrés, all countries should have already implemented the directive from 2019 and therefore open their wholesale electricity market. So why don't they do it? And maybe I should highlight that it is very easy and straightforward to do it, building on the experience of those couple of countries who have done it already. It's easy to allow demand response and aggregators to compete with generators. It only takes a couple of topics to be tackled in the national rules. So as you said, regarding aggregators, and that was your first recommendation, the country needs to provide a way that aggregators can claim the demand reduction or increasing volumes they trigger based on quality assurance and using DMDs if they wish. And these DR volumes need to be allocated to their balancing responsibility so that aggregators bear the same responsibility to deliver as generators do. So that's very simple regarding aggregators. And of course, as seen in the questions, there is also a second part, which is regarding suppliers of participating consumers or their balanced responsible party. You need to decide whether to impose them a perimeter correction or not, and if so, to grant them a financial compensation or not. And most importantly, you need to decide who should pay it so as not to create a barrier to demand response, as clearly stated in the European Directive from 2019. So it's really a couple of issues in question, like, very few bullet points, very few decisions. And all these principles are in the European legislation and should be implemented shortly to benefit all consumers throughout Europe, not only British consumers. That's so strange, isn't it? Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre. And finally, Kora, from Epex's perspective, what is missing and where do you see this developing? Will you develop products like Jacob is asking?
Yes, so a lot of things have already been done, but yes, indeed, we need to go always further. So I can only agree to many of the recommendations that are in the smartEn map, in particular the smart meter rollout. That's a prerequisite, a simple prerequisite for the development of demand response. Also agree to the that the intraday gate closure, the intraday cross-zonal gate closure time shortening of currently 60 minutes to then 30 minutes. That will also help the development or market integration of flexibilities. And also what has already been addressed, the further expansion of dynamic grid tariffs. I would like to add an additional market segment where we see a large potential for, especially for demand response, and where we see the need that the regulatory framework in Europe fosters this or further needs improvement. This is the market segment of new local flexibility markets. So markets for congestion management, where system operators, be it DSO or TSOs, can buy flexibility to solve actual congestions, and where flexibility service providers can sell their flexibility. And here we see a lot of unused potential so far. There are some frontrunner countries like the UK or the Netherlands. In the UK, we have, for example, together with UK Power Networks, so the largest British DSO, we developed and run a local flexibility market that's a fully commercial application. So we are not in the phase regarding these markets, not in the phase of research projects anymore or pilot projects, but so it's no science fiction. It's a proven market design. And we just reached in the UK Power Networks local flexibility market. We just reached end of the year more than 100,000 assets that are flexibility assets that are connected to this local flexibility market. These are electric vehicles, heat pumps, renewables, and so on. And we hope, regarding future regulation, that the network code demand response that Acer is currently developing will further push all over Europe this market-based flexibility procurement compared to purely cost-based or regulatory price setting for congestion management. And then there's a little bit also the question regarding how will then these new local flexibility markets, how will be the interplay between these local flexibility markets and the Day-Ahead and the Intraday markets. And here for us, it's important that every flexibility service provider, every market participant has barrier-free access to all these markets, and can push the different flexibility volumes to, without any barrier to all these different markets. So this does not require the concept that Acer suggested of bid forwarding, that was also not necessary, for example, for Day-Ahead and Intraday, and they developed a very healthy liquidity. But to guarantee all the different market actors to have a barrier-free access. And this can be done, for example, by standardization across these different markets, by an improved DSO and TSO coordination, and also by clear and efficient BRP routes so that market participants are balanced under delivery.
Thanks a lot, Kora. We have 1 minute left. There's a lot of questions, so we will not be able to answer them, but there's one that really stands out to me because it is a bit provoking, and I want to end with that. And it's from Jeremy, who asks why after 5 or 6 years almost, so little has changed in many countries, and what can we do to push them forward? In one sentence, do you have your interpretation of why this is going so slow, taking into consideration all the benefits we're talking about? Whoever wants to ask to take it first. I know it's very provocative.
Yes, I can take that. Because
Yeah.
because on the regulatory side, people think it's so new, they are wondering how to move forward. This is why we are providing recommendations on the 2-3, and I highlighted them too, on the 2-3 key decisions that need be made. Now, there's another reason. Those who are very large companies having great generation business maybe are not so willing to see that the demand side is going to be empowered to compete and participate in the market. But that's only a transition attitude, probably, because as renewable participation grows, then you need more and more flexibility. And so the market will actually physically and economically need flexibility from the demand side. This is why probably we can hope that in the next couple of years, many countries will actually open their market to participation of demand response through aggregation, be it independent or through suppliers. It's not only about independent aggregators participating, it should be all kinds of aggregators, and suppliers should be involved too. And maybe that will mitigate the so long opposition from large utilities to demand side response participation. We could hope for that indeed, if we want to achieve the energy transition at a reasonable price and foster the competitiveness of our industry in Europe, as you showed, Andrés.
Thank you, Pierre. And I think with that hope, I think we can close this webinar. Thank you, Kora, Pierre, Jakob, for your availability, for your messages. Thank you to all the audience for participating, for joining us. You can have a look at the full report online now. I'm always available to answer any questions. I'm sure our panelists will also be available for any questions that you might have if you want to reach out to them. I want to close with the two main messages, let's say, that I get out of this, is that first, consumers are on board, that they're willing, that they're interested to participate, and that there's benefits for all consumers, not only those that can participate. So I think this is a very important message to keep in mind. And I hope that this was an informative webinar for all of you. And thank you again for joining us, and have a nice rest of the day. Thank you. Bye-bye.